Welcome to Vacuum Wars, and to our review of the Yeedi S14 Plus robot vacuum. Yeedi has impressed us in the past with the quality and value of their budget products, but the S14 Plus is their new flagship robot vacuum with all of their top-of-the-line features and specs. So we bought one for ourselves and put it through all kinds of tests over the past few weeks, and in this video I'll go over the pros and cons and see how the Yeedi S14 Plus compares to other flagship robot vacuums like the Roborock Saros 10, and at the end we'll reveal how the S14 ended up ranking on the Vacuum Wars Top 20 list. So links in the description, and let's get started. Starting off with the basics, Yeedi is a subsidiary of one of the biggest robot vacuum manufacturers, Ecovacs, and the Yeedi brand seems to have been designed to be a more budget-friendly alternative. But this is the first time I've seen an almost one-for-one copy between an Ecovacs and Yeedi model, particularly with the Ecovacs X8 Omni, which we reviewed recently, which is almost identical in terms of features and looks as the S14 Plus, though the X8 Omni is a little more expensive and has some internal differences that we'll touch on later. In this video, I'm going to compare the specs and features of the Yeedi S14 Plus to the Roborock Saros 10 a lot because that's a more expensive flagship from another brand with similar features, so you can really get an idea of the value of the Yeedi S14 Plus. Starting off with hardware, as it relates to vacuuming performance, the Yeedi S14 had a fairly powerful suction motor. In our suction tests on max power, it was significantly above average, much more suction than the Roborock Saros 10, for example. The Yeedi S14 uses a pretty standard anti-tangle main brush in a floating housing, as well as a single side brush to sweep debris from both hard floors and carpets. It was good at its basic job of picking up debris, though I did notice a little bit of scattering of debris with its side brush, especially when there was a large amount of debris and on hard floors. I noticed the exact same thing with the Ecovacs X8, which is not surprising since they are essentially the same product in this regard. It wasn't a major problem by any means, but it is worth noting. It has an automatically extending side brush, which has quickly become a standard feature for flagships, which can sense when it's near corners and extend for better coverage, and it did good with this in our tests. It also had some amazing scores on the 2.5-inch pet hair pickup test on carpet, which is something I've found is difficult for combo robot vacuums to do good with. But the S14 Plus had one of the best scores on record with this test, much better than the Saros 10, for example. It also did good with resisting hair tangles, which wasn't too big of a surprise since it does have an active hair removal feature, which is little plastic combs in the housing that remove hair from the brush as it vacuums. It was able to resist 100% of the hair in the 7-inch hair test, which is much better than average. With the carpet deep clean test, where we see how good it is at picking up deeply embedded sand in carpets, it was a little lower than average, but it was exactly the same score that the Roborock Saros 10 got. One big pro for the Yeedi S14 Plus was its mopping ability. It uses a roller-style mop, which is different from the more common dual spinning pad mops or single vibrating pads like on the Saros 10. The big difference is that roller mops spray water on the roller as it mops and then squeegees the excess water into an onboard water tank. This means that roller-style mops can handle wet liquids much better than spinning or single mops, which tend to spread wet liquid around because they don't have anywhere to put the excess water. Roller-style mops tend to be better at resisting streaks as well, since they usually leave behind a little less water than the others do. In our dried-on stain mopping test, the Yeedi was much better than the Roborock. The Yeedi scored 94 points, which is a touch above average, but it also left behind a lot less water, which means that its combined mopping stain test scores were much higher than average and much higher than the Roborock Saros 10. The Yeedi S14 has a lot of advanced mopping features on the robot as well. For example, its roller module will extend automatically when it's near edges for better edge coverage, which, as far as I can tell, is as good or better than the automatically extending mop pads that the spinning robots use. Its mop roller also automatically lifts up 10 millimeters when it senses carpets to keep carpets dry. This allows you to vacuum houses that have a mixture of carpets and hard floors in the same run, which is a big pro in terms of efficiency. But the rest of its mopping features are all a part of its multifunctional dock, so let's move on to talking about that. As far as I can tell, the Yeedi S14's dock is identical to the dock on the Ecovacs X8, except that the Yeedi's does not have a detergent filling feature where the X8 does, but it seems to have everything else you would want in a hands-free robot vacuum management system. When the Yeedi S14 returns to its dock, it will empty its bin into a disposable bag, wash its roller with hot water, dry its roller with hot air, refill the clean water tank, and empty its onboard dirty water tank into the dirty water tank on the base. It's also a self-cleaning station, which is a feature that's usually just on higher-end robot vacuums like this one. Another pro was its obstacle avoidance. It has top-of-the-line sensors like a camera and 3D structured light, as well as an LED light so it can see objects in the dark. In our various obstacle avoidance tests, it got an overall score of 19 out of a possible 24, which is higher than average. This is one area where the Roborock Saros 10 did slightly better, but interestingly, the Yeedi S14 Plus did better than the Ecovacs X8 Omni here, despite them appearing to have the same obstacle avoidance hardware on the outside at least. The final pro I'll mention is its app. It has all the major features I'm used to seeing on top-of-the-line apps, like multi-level mapping, virtual barriers, advanced room-by-room scheduling features, live progress monitoring, and you can control nearly all the features of the robot itself or the bin behaviors in detailed ways. The Yeedi S14 does not have a built-in virtual voice assistant or real-time pet monitoring features that its twin, the Ecovacs X8 Omni, does, but you can control it with Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant. Another note is that the App Store scores for the Yeedi are much better on Apple than on Google Play, and we did all of our testing with Apple. Moving on to the cons, and the first thing I'll mention is its battery life. This is another area where the Ecovacs X8 and the Yeedi S14 really differ. The Yeedi has a smaller battery than the X8, and it really showed in our tests in a dramatic way, where the Yeedi was slightly below average in battery efficiency and average square feet per charge estimates at 728. The S14 does have recharge and resume, so it will return to recharge and then resume exactly where it left off on the map if it runs out of battery, so it's not that big of a deal, but battery life is an area that was sacrificed on the Yeedi S14 compared to the Ecovacs X8. Its navigation was also not quite as good as the Ecovacs X8. Don't get me wrong, it covered the area well and did so fairly efficiently. In fact, it was right at the 0.72 square meters per minute mark, which is right in line with the average amount and the Roborock Saros 10, but it did get stuck between some chair legs in the second run we did, which most robots don't do. Also, its twin, the X8, was better in general at navigation, and I can't figure out exactly why that is. I suspect a cheaper processor was used in the Yeedi S14, but I can only confirm the processor with the Ecovacs X8, so I don't know that for sure. But an interesting point is that the S14 and the X8 use an internal LiDAR as opposed to the top-mounted LiDAR that most robots before that have used, and that's supposed to make the robot slimmer, and they do that in order for it to be able to get under more furniture. But it hit me when reviewing this that the 3.98 inches is not much more slim than robots with top-mounted LiDARs. In fact, it's above the average height of 3.78 inches of all the robots we've ever tested. So it seems to me that they should have just gone with a top-mounted LiDAR and got better navigation numbers because it certainly didn't make it slimmer. Another con is its internal dustbin, which was the same super small 220 milliliters as the X8 and is much smaller than average. It can return to its dock several times during a run, which you can program in the app to empty more times if needed, but if you have a lot of pet hair, this small bin could be an issue. But despite those negatives, when you add up all the scores, the Yeedi S14 Plus still managed to rank in the top 20 and currently quite high on the top 20 robot vacuum list on the Vacuum Wars website, which we keep updated every week. So the Yeedi S14 Plus has top-of-the-line features, great mopping, good obstacle avoidance, and a discounted price compared to the Ecovacs X8. But the battery life and navigation were probably how they got to that cheaper price, but neither were deal breakers in my opinion. links in the description, and be sure to subscribe to Vacuum Wars before you leave. Thanks for watching. All of the links in the description are updated regularly to reflect our current favorite vacuums in multiple categories. You'll also find links to the Vacuum Wars website in the description, where we have more detailed lists of our favorite products, like our new top 20 robot vacuums list, which is updated weekly.